You're listening to the PZinner Network. For more great podcasts, go to pzinner.com.au.
Please attend carefully. In Conversation with writer and illustrator Georgia Cook.
Very excited to talk to you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me on.
That's great. I guess we can either jump straight into things if you'd like. I think the main thing that we really wanted to talk to you about was the your new book, Ruby Red.
Yes.
That's very exciting. It's very, very exciting.
Thank you.
I'm very, very keen to read it. The first thing that struck me was this is the second time you've had to write for a TARDIS team that's not actually been out before, haven't it? Because you wrote House of Masks for Jacob and Sophia.
Yes, for Valerie and the 11th Doctor.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, no, I suppose you're right there for a companion specifically in that instance that we'd never seen before.
Yeah.
What can I ask, especially with like 15 and Ruby, what is it like writing for a team that we sort of haven't seen before or have no knowledge of? Like, do you get given notes, or do they sort of give you a brief and it's up to you?
Yeah, well, I was originally asked to pitch an idea sort of with the proviso that it's quite possible that it won't be accepted and that I wouldn't get to write the book, and it was just sort of putting out feelers and without sort of having any prior knowledge of what the characters would really be. So I ended up watching a lot of previous projects that Ncuti and Millie had done and kind of picking up those characters and gently slotting them into the outline and kind of hoping that they were enough like what they were going for, that it would then work. So I could do some more research when I was allowed to later down the line. So it kind of ended up being filling in the gaps and hoping for the best.
That's great.
It's a really cool way of doing it. I really like that like idea, looking under the hood. And I suppose when you're starting, because the books are coming out around the time of the first series, so it's sort of slotting in there. I suppose it's not too hard for people to, even if there are those sort of gaps in there, for them to sort of fill them in themselves with what they've seen of the character. It's not too many leaps that they have to make.
Yes. I mean, eventually I was given some scripts and some episode outlines for sort of like the second draft phase of writing. So I was eventually able to properly understand the Doctor and his companion.
So you have forbidden knowledge.
I have forbidden knowledge.
That's fantastic. It must be like, really awesome to have reached the point where you are trusted with that process.
Yes. It's still quite terrifying. I haven't discussed anything at all, even sort of my excitement for the coming episodes. I'm just like, oh God, I have too many NDAs everywhere.
Yep.
I just won't talk about Doctor Who at all ever, and I'll be fine.
Yep. I'm guessing, when did you first start enjoying Doctor Who? Has it been like your whole life, or did you come into it later?
I think I started as quite a lot of people sort of in my age bracket did, with the revival series with 9, and got really, really into that for several years, and then kind of petered out at the Capaldi era, not because I didn't enjoy 12, but I was just sort of aged out of it slightly and going into university. And then I came back in a big way during the pandemic, as we all did, with old hobbies and old things that we love. And I sort of fell straight into Big Finish and loving that. And I had a lot of friends who really, really loved it. So by degrees, I was kind of yanked back into the fandom. And I'd started writing by then. I was sort of trying to build my career as a writer. So I just kind of ended up entangling it at the same time as entering what was an old fandom at that point. So it's been really lovely to revisit and to learn about classic Who at the same time.
That's great. How do you mentioned Big Finish? Look, I'm a Big Finish tragic. I've been listening for years, decades, since for many, many, many years. And that's what got me into doing audio, Big Finish. And so what is it like working with them? It seems so fun. Every interview I've ever heard or read, everyone just says it's absolutely wonderful. Is it as good as everyone says?
Oh, it is. It's really good fun. I mean, obviously it's a job, so you have your deadlines and you have notes that you've got to do, and you've got to stick to certain parameters that you're given. You can't just do your your fan fiction wonders. You've got to stick to what you have to do. But it's at the end of the day, it's so much fun, and everyone is so talented. And I've been lucky enough, because I live quite close by to the studios that they record in. I've been able to go to some of my scripts and listen to them being recorded by the actors, which is always so much of a treat to see that particular aspect. So I do some narration work for audiobooks and stuff, but I'm not a professional voice actor, and that is just a whole nother world and a whole nother job, which I wouldn't get to see otherwise. So that's an extra treat.
That sounds incredible. What is it like, if you can explain it, seeing like your written words suddenly brought to life by other people, and then sound effects added later, or like just, because I know they do the audiobooks, but sort of they enhance them a bit, when you do you listen to the final product, and what's it like?
Oh, I do. Yeah. I mean, it's always gorgeous. I find that the actors either manage to say it exactly how I pictured a line when I wrote it, or they find a new way, which is even better. And I think, oh God, I wish I'd written that line in that specific way. Thank you, actor. But no, it's always so much fun, and it does inevitably end up sounding exactly like I imagined, which is what you hope for when you're writing a script, especially when you've written a script for several months or up to a year. You kind of get to know it too well. And to hear it in that new lens, but also familiar, it's gorgeous.
Fantastic.
How does it how do you find it's differing between writing the scripts for Big Finish and writing the prose for these new novels?
It's different. It's definitely it's a different medium entirely, with a different kind of intended outcome, apart from the audiobooks. But I started out writing prose originally anyway. I was a horror writer originally for podcasts and things and anthology works. So that was my initial mode of writing. And then I sort of had to learn audio work when I started writing for Big Finish. So it was really nice to go back to something that I'd not done in a while, and in a length that I'm not very accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
So usually I write short works of up to about 5,000 words, whereas this was quite a bit longer than that. So it was really nice to be able to stretch my legs and realize, I can still write prose. It's all right. I haven't lost the ability while writing scripts. And to revisit an old way of working with my new way of working, to sort of cross those together, was really, really lovely.
That's great. I'm gonna have to search out some of those anthologies. I'm on a massive M.R. James kick at the moment, so I need more.
Yes.
I need more horror weird short stories. Keep me going.
Oh yeah, I do. Horror is my bread and butter. I love it so much. It's always nice, especially because Doctor Who is so horror driven in a lot of its stuff. It's got a reputation for making you hide behind the sofa. It's so core part of it.
Yes, we just recorded our own podcast episode of talking about World Enough and Time, which is big Cyberman horror episode. So
yes,
we're fresh off of that discussion of
anywhere the Cybermen go, horror.
Yeah. I say frequently that Doctor Who can and should be genuinely scary. It has the capacity, and it absolutely should be. And people like Stephen Moffat really are just like, yes, I'm going to try and do everything I can.
I'm going to make it the most terrifying thing.
Obviously, you can't say anything, but we're very excited for the Stephen Moffat horror episode that's coming up this season.
The NDAs, Amber.
Yes. I said...
They're everywhere. I'm very excited for that too.
Yes. So, rewinding a little bit, how did you sort of become a writer for Doctor Who? How did you sort of bridge that gap between, into professional writing for your favorite fandom?
It was sort of, I won't say completely at random, but very much sort of a random sequence of events. I think I'd spent a year at that point properly trying to write, and I'd gotten a load of things kind of published, got them out there. You could sort of read them quite easily online. I had a website, and someone that I knew, a writer already on Big Finish, wasn't able to write for a certain project. They had to drop out, unfortunately, because they had quite a lot of work on. And they recommended me to their producer instead, because what they wanted was quite horror based, and they already knew what I wrote. So the producer just sent me an email and asked if I would be interested. And that was my very first interlude, The Haunting of Brick Place, with 7 and Ace. Yeah, and it just went from there. That was a prose piece. So all the interludes are audiobook style narrations.
The replacement for the short short stories.
Yeah, the short trips. Yeah, which I think they're also, but yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah, sorry. And that went quite well. And they asked if I'd like to do The Young Doctor and Valerie, which was an amazing first script to write, which turned out to be a stellar series of box sets. And then it just went from there. They keep having me back, and they haven't fired me yet, which is lovely.
Yeah, the 11 and Valerie series became such a huge fan favorite, like popular series, and of course, I suppose it ended with like a massive bang in the end with Jacob having to leave, and to be. How does it feel like being, looking back and go, I wrote the second story in that thing that started this whole...
Yeah, it was brilliant. I mean, Saf and Jacob do an amazing job. They are so much of why that box set is good. And obviously our producer Alfie did such good work tying everything together. But yeah, it was so much fun, like you said at the start, sort of helping to mold a companion. I mean, obviously we already had an idea of what she was going to be like and kind of her mannerisms and some of her backstory, but being able to kind of start to seed in those threads of, what she'd gone through before and what her life was like back in her own time period, that is always such a treat to be able to do with a character, and then to sort of hand them off to the next writer and kind of watch it keep going, and then sort of pick it up slightly later with the Christmas episode, and then watch it keep going again, and just see how much everyone's changed and how they've evolved and what's been added on, what's sort of been taken away in terms of things that they've gone through, the traumas of poor Valerie Lockwood. And it's so much fun. I'd love to do it again.
Wouldn't we all? How much? So when you're doing a box set like that, and I've always wondered this, because obviously you've got the producer, which is Alfie Shaw on that. How much of it is the writers, and how much of it is him bringing those 4 stories to the point where they are sort of cohesive? Like, is there much talk between the writers, or is it you've got your story and then the sort of, I suppose, script editing stage comes along where you sort of tie them a bit closer together?
Often it sort of differs between box sets. It'll really be up to, I mean, the group of writers, and then the producer and the script editor. It'll really count on who those people are and what they've done before. Sometimes it'll be very hands-off, and I won't ever talk to either of the other writers. It'll just be like, okay, we need this character, and this character. They sort of need to get to this point by the end. Off you go, have fun. And then sometimes it'll be a really collaborative process, sort of with meetings sort of on Zoom or wherever, and it'll really be okay, so this is what's happening here with this episode, this is what's going to happen here with this episode, this is how it links to here. If you want to cross talk so that you have references that come in from here into here, then that'll work, or like from, so that these two will carry on to here nicely, or this character will arc in this way through these 2 stories. So yeah, it really depends on who you're working with and kind of what the feel of the box set is as well. If you've got a long arc between 3 episodes, then it's pretty imperative that everyone talks.
Yes.
And sometimes it'll be like very anthology-esque, where there'll be almost no connection between the stories, and then it's very much more a get this script in by this deadline, I hope everyone else does okay.
Oh, I love that. Can I is it rude to ask which one is your favorite? Which story you've done for Big Finish is your favorite?
Oh gosh, I do love House of Masks, because it was my very first one. Yep. I know it's sort of, fandom kind of is a bit middling on it, but I really loved doing it.
Do you keep a finger to the wind on fandom?
No, I try not to. I don't like to read reviews. I think it's not a great idea for a writer to read reviews on things. Yep. But I think that particular episode has been out enough that I just kind of see things.
I mean, I enjoyed it, and I'm not just saying that because I have to, because I'm talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, he was very excited when I said that I'd spoken to you.
Yeah, I genuinely was. I mean,
thank you very much.
That's what. Look, no, there are lots of there are lots of Big Finish writers that I would like to have a word with for various reasons. Um, James Goss is top of the list, but just because he just keeps destroying me with his stories. Anyway.
Oh, he's so good at angst. He is angst king sometimes.
So I didn't realize I'm not on Tumblr because Amber is I'm an old fogey. So I saw your artwork of the collective.
Oh yes.
Yeah, absolutely stunning. One of my absolute favorite characters. I adored
Oh,
the
mine too.
entire like Doom Coalition Ravenous line, that wonderful through line. Is that a character you'd like to be writing for?
Oh, absolutely. The reason I got into Big Finish in the first place is because of the 11
Yep.
/ the 9.
Yep.
I had friends that sort of came to me with like, Georgia, you're going to love this character. They were crafted especially for you. Please listen to all of these box sets that they've been in and join us in our fandom and our insanity that is Big Finish.
Yep.
I was like, okay, fine. It was that and Narvin. Those were the two characters that they came to me with.
Yeah,
we talk a lot about Narvin.
Yes,
I want to have shirts made with Narvin's face that says "Gaslight Gatekeep Gallifrey."
Yes, that poor man.
But no, companion piece is like one of the greatest things I've ever listened to in my life.
So funny. It's such a loving send up of fandom in just such a unique way that you can only do with the 9.
Yep.
So good.
Do you have a number that you would like to? Because we know like little bits about the numbers. Do you have a number that you would love to like take and just flesh out?
I mean, I think a few years ago I did a full lineup of what I imagined all of the incarnations to look like, and I sort of tried to fill in from the few context clues that we get about what each character would be like. I think I'd love to grab the 7 or the 10, especially.
The 10's the psychopath, right?
I think he's the one that's very master-esque in that he's very good at hypnotism. Yes. I think that's kind of his big trait that we learn. I think the 7 is kind of a scientist. I think they'd be very good. I think the 5, is it the 5 or the 6? Who's the brute?
The 6th is the one with the really
yes.
I think
he sounds great fun.
I mean, I don't know how you do a constructive story with him though, because
I think that's the thing.
He just kills everyone. There's one that's like a small child, right? Isn't it?
I think is that 3. The 3.
Yeah, it's just a small child. But no, it's an amazing concept, and I want more. I want
more of that character. Yes.
So please go take this as your, you are taking our ideas back to Nicholas.
We I think, as you mentioned about a friend being like, here's his thing, you'll love it. That was very much similar to us. Is Ciarán went, here's only the good. Derek Jacobi's first audio.
Oh,
and
gosh,
I think I cried my eyes out in the final part, and he has just been my favorite Doctor Who moment, actor, character since.
I think he's the master that I'm the most terrified of. I've decided he is so. I would not survive 5 seconds in a room with that master. He's so good, and Derek Jacobi is such a lovely human being.
Yes. And then he plays this monstrous but quite nice old man.
Yes.
Yes, he on our podcast here on Please Attend Carefully is, we've both said, our favourite. We can't get past Derek Jacobi's performance.
I mean, it helps with the fact that the box sets have been steadily coming for well over a decade now, and I've just been happily getting, like, we've got more Derek Jacobi than we have Roger Delgado, and I'm just
yes, that's true.
And it just keeps coming. And I mean, the writing on those box sets is absolutely amazing. The directing by Scott Hancock is absolutely amazing. Sorry, we have an in-joke about Scott Hancock. It's fine. I have a bit of a crush. It's fine. Yes.
Do you have, since we are a master podcast, do you have a master that you particularly like? Is it Derek Jacobi, or is it another one that you would even like to write for?
Oh, I'd love to write for a master in general. I think they are such a compelling character. I do love the more theatrical, sort of amped up versions of the Master, which is weird because my favorite is Derek Jacobi, who's probably the least of those. I love Missy. I love Sacha Dhawan's Master so much. I'd love to see more stuff with him in. I think he's such a good actor.
February next year. That's how long we have to wait for his audios.
Yeah, no, I think I think the revival took the Master in a different way than he is in classic, which I think you can either love or hate as a fan of the Master. But yeah, I think it does lean more towards the revivals for me. There's something about just that theatricality and that owning the stage, but also with this vulnerability and this self-awareness that's kind of buried down deep with them. I think that's really compelling.
Yes, I think we've discussed before that the Timeless Child arc sort of gave that Master a layer of vulnerability that he couldn't escape from anymore, like a new reality. So it'll be interesting to see how that Master progresses into the future with that knowledge.
Oh yeah,
yes, absolutely.
He finally gets everything he's always wanted. He kills all the Time Lords, and it hasn't helped. He's not happy.
I know. It's like when you achieve your dreams and you realize that's not what's going to fill the empty void in your life. He's so relatable.
Alexander wept salt tears.
Yes.
Oh, it's wonderful. Amber, have you got more?
I mean, I was going to ask you, like, are you excited for the new series? What are you most looking forward to? But now we have discovered that you actually can't probably tell us what you are most excited for, because it might.
I'm still so excited for the new series. It's gone sort of catastrophic. Not catastrophic. What's the word? Completely the wrong word. Stratospheric. All over again.
Yep.
Yes.
Also, I heard the other day, I think that there's a TARDIS in Disneyland now, which is...
Yes, I saw. I was very jealous.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Some days I feel like just a tiny bit like I don't want to be that like grumpy old nerd, but I was just like, I grew up in the 90s when Doctor Who wasn't around and everyone thought I was weird for liking a show that wasn't on, and now it's at Disneyland.
Yes. I mean, I was on Tumblr during the era of Super Hulock.
Oh God.
I remember the heights of fandom.
It is funny because the fandom does, come and go in waves as the show peaks. So we're probably heading in for a new trajectory of the fandom, and we're going to see. I'm going on my honeymoon soon, and I'm coming to the UK, and I'll be in the UK while it's airing. So I'm looking forward to sort of being in the UK while it's happening.
Immersed in,
yeah. What?
No, it'll be good for you. It'll be good for you. You'll be in this pub at like midnight saying, "Can I watch the TV? I want to watch Doctor Who."
Yes, I need to ask the nice old couple who are in the guest house on the base of Ben Nevis if they have BBC.
Oh, that's going to be me and my partner it's coming out Friday.
Yeah,
trying to watch it trying to stay up to watch it at midnight.
Or it comes out at lunchtime for us.
No, it comes out at 9
like
o'clock in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Which honestly, I would be more happy staying up till midnight to watch Doctor Who than getting up and watching Doctor Who at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
So have you have you got more stuff coming up from Big Finish at some point soon? Whether you can talk about it or not?
I don't think I have anything I can talk about, unfortunately.
That's okay. I guess I would also like to say yesterday the Big Finish writing competition got announced.
Yes.
I'm sure that you're past maybe entering for that since you're already foot in the door. Its theme is Time War, and not to put any pressure on, but do you have any advice for maybe our listeners, people who are trying to enter or start writing Doctor Who?
In terms of the Paul Spragg, especially, I entered once before I was sort of employed by Big Finish, and I'm pretty certain my entry had absolutely no bearing on me being asked, because I completely did not read the instructions correctly, and I sent something that was absolutely not going to be accepted on the grounds of it not being the correct format. So don't be me.
read the exam paper.
Read everything thoroughly and make sure you're doing the right thing. But no, I've had a lot of friends and colleagues who, even though they didn't win the Paul Spragg, especially, it got them on the radar of Big Finish, and they were then contacted off the back of that to write an interlude or a short trip, and then they were able to get their foot in their door that way. So I would recommend, especially, don't discount yourself, and also don't think that just because they only pick one story to be produced, that you have such a small chance of winning and for it to going anywhere. No, it can open doors for you even if you don't win. So I always recommend trying it. And also it's great to have something out there, and have a learn how to write a pitch, learn how to write a sample for something. It is really good practice.
Yes, I think that's great advice.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do it. I've already got my idea planned out, but
you can use the Daleks now, I think, as previously as you couldn't, which is really exciting.
Yes, because it's the Time War. So
yeah,
and you can use the modern Doctors.
Oh, nice.
Yes, I've kept up with it. I haven't entered the past few years, but I've been suffering major guilt that I never entered the one where I could have written for David Warner. And like I wrote the script and then I went, no one will ever like that, and just left it, and then suffered. But
always submit.
Always submit. But yeah, no, I'm keen for this year, and I hear that about Big Finish, that like once if you just approach them, then you're always on the radar. I was listening to a podcast, the Behind the Voice podcast, from a couple of actors who have acted at Big Finish, and they interviewed the head producer at Big Finish, and he said, look, if anyone sends us a voice reel, I send it round to all of the producers, everyone knows it. And so just getting in there. And
they're especially good with actors. They're really, I think it's how a lot of actors in the UK sort of, it's a bit like how Doctors or some of the soaps used to be, is that it's a really good foot in the door for young actors starting out, and then they can kind of build their career from having kind of been with Big Finish. And they're really good at accepting new talent and sort of fostering it and giving it the chance to sort of prove itself and to grow and to become more of what it wants to be. So in every aspect, they're really good for that.
Wonderful.
Yes, I think that's all we.
You've been absolutely lovely to talk to. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your morning to talk to us as the light fades for us.
Yes. It's always so difficult trying to get times together for opposite ends of the world. Thank you so much for having me.
That's okay. And yes, and to everyone listening, to remember that your book, Ruby Red, is coming out soon. So if they want to read.
Yes, June 13th.
Fantastic.
When it drops, but you can pre-order it now.
June 13th. I'll be able to buy my copy from a bookstore in London.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you've given us confidence. We're going to go find more people to interview now. You're our first ever interview for the podcast.
Oh, awesome. Hi.
But no, you've been absolutely lovely.
Yes, thank you again so much.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you so much.
It was an absolute delight chatting with Georgia. Now, if you'd like to find out more about her work, you can go to her website, georgiacookWriter.com. Go to Big Finish and search Georgia Cook. And don't forget, you can pre-order Ruby Red, her new novel featuring the 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday, right now, ahead of its release on the 13th of June.